Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. You're now tuned into the one and only B-Rad Show, and I'm your host, the M to the J to the. You already know how it goes. Hope you guys have been having a wonderful, beautiful day. Today's topic is going to be very interesting. I'm going to be getting on a particular film that I just think that it was very weird and very creepy. I mean, I don't know for those of you guys, many of you guys that have seen this. I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys have seen this film. It's available right now on Netflix, and I just think it's just. It was just so crazy that I just wanted to do an episode, a segment on this particular film. And it's called Knock Knock. For you guys that haven't seen it, I recommend that you check it out. But if you are going to check this movie out, I highly recommend that you do not allow your children or anyone under a certain age to watch this film. This film is definitely rated R. So I want to put that out there, disclaimer out there, that I believe that this should be rated R. No children should be watching this film, okay, on Netflix. Once again, it's called Knock Knock. It casts the main character, Keanu Reeves, his co-host Lorenzo Izzo. If I'm spelling that wrong or pronouncing that wrong, correct me, ladies and gentlemen. But Lorenzo Izzo and Ana de Armas. Okay, so what this film on Netflix is about, starring the main character, Keanu Reeves. It's pretty much about a husband and a father. Okay, so we're talking about a husband and a father, which is all alone for the weekend, and his life is basically turned upside down after he invites two young women into his home during a heavy storm. Okay, so this is the whole background. This is the main background plot of the storyline. And this movie is just so crazy, and it was just it had so many things in it that was just it was creepy. I mean, not creepy in a scary way, but more of a creepy, like it was a weirdo way. Okay, this film, I think it was all over the place. I'm going to be honest with you guys. For a lot of you guys, if you don't have a good attention expanse, you're not going to understand this film. Okay, because when this movie starts off, it starts off like very crazy and weird, and it's like hard to understand what pretty much is going on. So when the movie first started, I mean, I was kind of baffled because I was like, okay, what is the point and the significance of this movie? Okay. So I remember this film. This is not the first. This is the first film. This film was actually made before, previously, I believe, in the 70s. In the 70s, sometime in the 70s. Don't know the exact on point date, but in the 70s, the original film Knock Knock was made, and this film was, I guess, what you consider the reboot. But as I said, this film was crazy, and it was all over the place, especially in the beginning. It was hard to understand what this film, what was the point? What was the significance? What was this film trying to, what was the establishment? What was the understanding, that the relevance that this film was trying to give us? Okay. So for all of you guys that actually got a chance to see this film on Netflix, man, it was so like I said, it was weird, and it was so creepy, and I was just like, what is this? I'm not going to lie to you guys. If when you start watching this film, you're probably going to be turned off, and you're probably not going to want to continue on with this film. You're probably going to want to turn it off because, like I said, as it starts off, it just starts off so creepy, especially with the little dance scene in the living room. It was just weird, and like I said, me as being a major television fanatic, TV fanatic. Okay, so even if something is too creepy, or maybe has too weird, or even when you have films that, there's a lot of films where it takes time for it to build up, for you to actually get into a movie, or those films where you have to actually really pay attention, or you will completely not understand the relevance of a movie. So I continued on with the movie, even though I wanted to turn this movie off. I wanted to turn it off because it was just, I'm like, okay, what is this? Okay, what is this? But I gave it the benefit of the doubt, and I watched the movie. I saw it all the way through to the end. So as I kept going on through the movie, I start more understanding, okay, what was the whole significance and the relevance of the supporting cast, Mrs. Lorenzo Izzo and Mrs. Ana de Armas. I started understanding what was their role and their significance into this film relating to the main character, Keanu Reeves. Okay. And like I said, it was just all over the place, and it was just so weird. And it is very creepy, and I highly recommend that you guys do not allow any children, anyone under a certain specific age, to watch this film. If you're watching this at home on Netflix, do not allow your children, kids, teenagers, none of that, do not allow them to watch this film with you, okay? Because this film is not intended for people under a certain age. But as I said, my personal opinions, I think it was, like I said, even though I watched it and watched it all the way through to the end, it was hard for anyone that's not really a major TV fanatic, or someone that's not majorly heavily a fan of television or movies and film. You're not going to be probably going to see this film all the way through. You're probably going to get turned off from this film from the beginning, because the beginning, it takes you all over the place, and you don't understand what's going on in this film. But I saw it through, and some things I put together as the film kept going on and progressing. I put some things together, and it made sense to me more of why the beginning of the film started off how it started off, and it made sense to these two females that Keanu Reeves invited into his home during this heavy storm. It started making sense. And I want to discuss a few things about this, because this is very important, ladies and gentlemen, very, very important. Okay. But like I said, when I first started watching this film, in the first 5 minutes, my first thoughts was, what the hell is going on in this film? What the hell is going on? What is this? Because it was to me, it was unacceptable. And I was, like I said, I was so quick, I wanted to turn it off, but I saw it through. Okay. So, like I said, it was a whole lot of rated R things in here, a lot of sexual content, a lot of disturbing things in this film. It also had a message in here, okay? It did have a message in this film. And I see how it was different from the original film. From the original film that came out in the 70s, this new version, it was totally different. So it was hard for me to understand this. But as I saw it through, I did still have my points and views and opinions about this film, and I will give you guys my personal rating of this film. What do I give this film on a scale basis from 1 to 10? I'm going to give you guys a rating of it, but I'm going to go in a little bit and tell you guys. As I said, the backstory I told you guys, it's about the main character, a husband and a father who's alone for the weekend, and he invites these young women into his house, basically because it was a heavy storm, okay? But like I said, it was so much things going on, so much sexual content, so much just pornographic stuff going on. It was just so creepy, and it was just all over the place. And what my thoughts and opinions of this film was, I think the message of this film was trying to show us that basically these women were basically they were basically sexualizing the main character, Keanu Reeves. This is the overall message I got from this film, that they were seducing him, and they were seducing him heavily into some heavy extreme. And I want to be, like I said, I want you guys to be very prudent. Be very prudent. This film is not for everyone. It's not even for adults. A lot of adults will not be able to watch this film all the way through. You might get turned off from the first 5 minutes or 10 minutes of this film, because it's just so heavy with so much explicit and just adult content. And it's just, oh man, it's just terrifying. Not in a scary way, but in a just the sexual content of this film. But like I said, I think this film was the basic concept. It was these two women were seducing a married man and a father. They were seducing him, but the way they were seducing him was basically just womanizing him. They were doing so many type of stuff. These women were womanizers basically, and I just think that this film, it did have a significant message in here. And I want you guys to give me your opinion. Spam in the comments. Let me know what you guys' opinion or as far as if you have seen this film, if you got a chance to watch this on Netflix. I want to know what you guys' opinions are. The main thing I want to know is, do you guys believe that there are women out here nowadays? Do you think that this story with the backstory, do you think this was true? Do you think it was more reality or was more fiction? Do you think it's actually a lot of women out here like this that are basically seducers, heavy sexual seducers like this, and the way that they were doing the main character, Keanu Reeves, in this film? Do you think there are women out here like this? My personal opinion is, if you ask me this, if we're talking about a specific era, if we're talking about the 90s, in the 90s, I would say that no, I would say this would be more fiction and this would not be reality. I wouldn't see that it would be, I wouldn't think that and believe that it was a lot of women. If you ask me, I would say no, I don't believe that there's a lot of women out there, even if, I would say probably if there is maybe a few or several women out there, or a small percentile. But if we're talking about in the era now, I would say that this film actually gave us some truth, that showing us that the women nowadays, there is a lot of women out here nowadays that are like this. The two casting females, the two actresses that were the supporting cast of the main character, Keanu Reeves, excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. But the two actresses that were the supporting cast to the main actor, Keanu Reeves, I would say that there are actually a lot of women out here like this nowadays, in the era now. But not if we're talking about in a different era. If we're talking about in the 90s, or even in the 80s, in the 70s, I would say, or the 90s and the 80s, I would say no, this was more fiction and not reality. I wouldn't say that there's a lot of women out here like that, and during that time frame. But if we're talking about now, in the time frame that we are in now, in the era we're in now, I would say that there actually are a lot of women out here like this nowadays, and it's just going under the radar. And this was actually, I think this was very important. This was an important movie because it provided a certain key message to let the world know that it's not just men out here in the world that are just mistreating women or abusing women or seducing women, sexually seducing women, and just using women. There are women out here that are the same way, and it's a high percentile, whether you guys know it or not. There's a very big percentile of women out here that you would consider basically seducers, sexual seducers, and users of men. I believe that there's a lot of women out here nowadays like this, and I think that this film showed us a specific message that was relevant to the time frame that we are in now. And as I just kept watching the movie and watching it, I came to the realization that what the writer, the person that wrote this, whoever the writer is, I will do my research and more into this movie and find out. But the person that wrote this wrote this script, this screenplay, and I think the message that they were trying to give us, the backup message is that these women were heavily messed up. They were heavily messed up. And it was obviously that the things that they were doing in this film, that it was clear that they were being sexually abused, or even if not sexually abused, but they were being abused. And I think it was more being abused by a man. And I don't think just any man. I think that it's a possibility that these women were experiencing, in a younger age, they were experiencing abuse, whether it was sexual abuse or verbal, whatever type of physical abuse, whatever, by a father or a father figure, not just a man, but by a father or a father figure. I think this was the backup message. This was the backup message, supporting the main message that there are women out here that are heavily sexual seducers, and that are out here using men, or are basically just doing some very evil and demonic things, okay, out here in the world. And I think that this is something that needs to be put out there, and a lot of people need to be alert to this, because like I said, it's not just men. If you ask me, I would say time frame has changed. When we're talking about the scale, when we're weighing the scales, I would say, being very vividly and being very blunt, because you guys know that I am very blunt. I like to be very blunt. That's how I am. I would say that the percentile between the man versus the woman, I would say it's equal when we're talking about how this certain type of image of how majority of men is. I would say it's the same thing for women. I would say the percentile rate is the same. Women are just as, it's a high percentage of women are just like the percentage of men out here that are just complete, just completely insane in the brain, and they will do anything and to do anything to get whatever they want. And another message that I think that is important for people to understand, that I do believe that this movie did not, it basically gave it to us, but I want to say, but I think something that it missed out and it didn't put in there is that I think it's very irrelevant, that we need to understand that men go through psychological damage and mental damage, and they go through abuse, sexual abuse, just as the women do, okay? And I think that it's not fair for the majority of the population of the people to think to be so sensitive to the topic at hand when it comes to women, when actual fact and reality, there's a lot of men or boys, young men, teenagers, young boys that have experienced certain type of abusive behaviors like this, as far as sexual behavior, of sexual abuse, physical abuse, verbal abuse, parental abuse. I mean, we need to understand these things, okay? We need to understand. There are a lot of women out here that are psycho and crazy and that are just very seductive, just like the men are. And I think it needs to be cleared up, and it needs to be accounted for. But continuing on with this movie, this film, Knock Knock, like I said, this film was just crazy. And it was just like, man, it was, like I said, a lot of people won't be able to stand and be able to withstand to be able to watch this whole movie through. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I wanted to turn this film off and just leave it alone, but I did see it through. And like I said, if we're going to go on a scale of 1 to 10, if I have to give this movie a scale of 1 to 10, I would give this movie a 5 rating. A 5 rating, okay? I would give it a 5 rating only because of the message that it had in it, the significant message, the main message in it, that, okay, that basically women are basically seducers and physical abuse and abuse men, just how men abuse women and sexually abuse women, and basically, use women use men at the same rate, okay? And we need to stop being sensitive to just the women, and we need to make sure that it's even up, and we're making sure that we're discussing and talking about the men being seduced and being abused by women as well, ladies and gentlemen, okay? But I gave it a 5 because of that message. And like I said, it was very clear that what these women were doing in this film, from the beginning all the way through, it was very clear and obviously that these women had to have some type of issues with parental abuse, even sexual abuse, where there was a father abusing them, a father or a father figure that was abusing them, even sexually abusing them, verbally abusing them. It could have been all three: verbally, physically, and sexually abusing. Okay, it was very clear. But what was strange and funny is that at the end of the movie, when the wife and the children came home, the wife was so baffled, she was trying to understand what was going on. And at the end of the movie, the women, like, okay, this was just completely, just like, it made no sense. It made no sense whatsoever. It made no sense. The only thing that was right about this movie, and that I think that was good about this movie, is the important message that it had in it. So that's the reason why I gave this movie a rated 5, a 5 rating. And it would have got less than that had it not had Keanu Reeves in this film. If it did not have Keanu Reeves in this film, I probably would have gave this film like a 3 or 2. Honestly, I'm just being very blunt. This movie would have got a 2 or 3 if Keanu Reeves hadn't been in it. My personal opinion about Keanu Reeves' role in this film, I do not think that this was one of his top films. Matter of fact, I think that this was one of his worst films. Not saying that because of him, it's just because of the whole story structure of this film. I think that this was one of his worst films. This was one of his worst films, and I don't think that he was I don't think this is the type of film that Keanu Reeves is good at as far as him being an actor. I don't think this was the right type of film from him. So that's another reason why I gave this film a 5, only because it had Keanu Reeves in it, and the specific message, the important message that it had in this film. Other than that, I would have gave this a film a 2 or 3. I want you guys to make sure you spam in the comments. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think that this film do you think that I rated this film properly? Do you think that I rated it good enough? Or do you think that I gave it too much rating? Or do you think that this film should have got a better rating? But personally, I gave it a 5. Okay? I I watched it all the way through, but I just didn't like it. If you ask me would I watch this film again on just any given day on a movie night, no, I wouldn't watch this film again. I just think it was terrible and it was trash, okay? And the only reason why it kept me going because I wanted to get to see what was the whole porch. I wanted to see it through just so I can give my complete critique of this movie, and I wanted to see what the relevance of it was, and I just think this was a terrible movie and a bad movie, okay? But however, like I said, there are a lot of movies on Netflix that are worse and more trash than this movie, so it is what it is. So you guys, fam, in the comments, let me know what you guys think about this film. If you watched this film, let me know what you think. If you haven't watched this film, you're more than welcome to check it out, but I will warn you, be very prudent. Do not let anyone under a certain age watch this film, because this film is not for people intended for under a certain age, okay? Other than that, that's all I have for you guys. So I want to thank you guys once again for tuning in this show. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and don't forget to share this video. Click that notification button so you'll always be up to date when I drop new broadcasts. So until next time, y'all know what it is. Oh, also, before I forget, make sure you guys go subscribe to the Bradford Files podcast. I'm available on Anchor. I'm also available on Clout, on Google Podcasts, also on Spotify, all major podcast platforms. If you type in my podcast, The Bradford Files, you will be able to see all of my content, and you will see some of the content that I upload on this channel is actually available. The audio version is available on my podcast on the anchor.fm, ladies and gentlemen. I will make sure I leave the link in the bottom in the description. I also will leave the link to this film on Netflix, so you guys just if you want to check it out, make sure you check it out. But I'm warning you guys, this film it's all over the place, and I just think it was I don't think it was a good film. I really don't, but it did have a significant message in it, okay? So that's all I have for you guys. Like I said, I appreciate all you guys' love and support. I appreciate all of you guys that have been supporting me right now. So until next time, y'all already know what it is. It's the M to the J to the U. No, peace. I'm out.